Now, government says it is considering further expenditure cuts as its meeting to the IMF spring meetings is described as successful. Now, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says the nation has been assured of a $250 million support expected from the World Bank, plus an expectation of receiving a major boost in its request to secure an IMF program later in the week. Now, Mr. Ofori-Atta has been speaking at a news conference in Washington, D.C.
I think for a response to the 250 million, we are establishing a stability fund to ensure that we can intervene in the event of any solvency and liquidity issues. The World Bank has committed $250 million of that, and we are still talking with a number of donor partners, including the Africa Development Bank, for further resources. Government itself will put some money into that. We expect really latest by the third quarter for at least the World Bank resources to come through, working to accelerate Africa Development Bank and government itself's participation in that. So that's on the issue of the $250 million. In terms of the week, I think George will be able to testify himself. It's been a very positive week for Ghana. The fund is very comfortable with where we are. We are all looking in the next few weeks for the Paris Club to come in with their financing assurances. Pretty confident that everybody will come through. And the managing director of the IMF has committed that as soon as the assurances are in, they'll set up the board meeting, and we expect to get a quick approval from then on. So on the fund side, I think it's been a very good week. But beyond that was also the beginning of discussions with the Eurobond investors. We did an investor presentation and then met with their committee, and those are going well. I think we are setting up the rubrics of the discussions. There's some more information to be given to them by the IMF and the World Bank. And once that's done, I guess we will then begin negotiations on that.
So that's the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta speaking there exclusively to Joy News in Washington, D.C. Now, one of the conditions precedent to getting the IMF deal is the introduction of new tax revenues. Those revenue taxes were passed by Parliament. Now, Joy News is learning that the bills have been assented to by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and will come into force shortly. Now, Information Minister Kojo says government expects measures to be implemented shortly.
The counsel to the president, Mr. Kojo, and he informs me that the president has assented to them and that it has been returned to the clerk of parliament. That's the brief I have on that as of now.
Okay, so it's been assented to as we speak. That's the status of these three taxes.
That is a brief I have from counsel to the president. And my information is that it has been returned to the clerk of parliament. And I'm sure they will now, get into the transmittal process so that the GRA, etc., can now start implementing.
Okay, but we don't know the timelines as to when all that will happen so that the GRA will commence implementation.
I don't have timelines on that. It's already overdue. Remember that these were revenue measures that were mentioned in the November budget, and we delayed in getting it passed. So it is already delayed, and it may therefore be important that we fast-track implementation.
So Minister Kojo was speaking to my colleague MFR Powell on the probe on Joy News Shadow. Now, the Ghana Union of Traders Association is unhappy about this development. Dr. Joseph Obeng is president of GUTA.
Also, and it doesn't happen anywhere. Business communities are treated very seriously in other jurisdictions. It shouldn't be said that they do not also take our concerns, and that a few authorities should take their own decisions. It is not fair. To the slaughterhouse. Is that what they are saying? Even IMF itself does not seek the destruction of businesses. IMF does not seek the destruction of businesses. And that, if we have to enhance on revenue collection, that's why we say we have to sit down. And then we all prefer better alternative than what they are doing now. So we could have sent a better alternative than impose this on us, when we have all complained about.
Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant, says IMF is not a debt sentence as some people have portrayed on Ghana's request for a bailout plan with the International Monetary Fund. Now, as part of the conditionality to accessing the austerity fund, Ghana has gone there, and people are saying that it is going to impose hardship. The government has introduced 3 new tax measures, which the private sector has described as counterproductive. However, speaking to the concerns of the investor community, Yofi Grant says the aim is to revamp the economy, which will inure to the benefit of the private sector.
Yofi Grant, thank you for talking to Joy News. You're in Cape Town now. You are participating in the first session. We know that you'd also be speaking in the course of the week. But let's talk about the Continental Free Trade Area. How is the GIPC positioning Ghana to take advantage of the free trade area?
Well, I mean, definitely for us, the AFCFTA has such significant relevance for Africa's economic transformation and growth. And Ghana already championing a new narrative on the continent, starting with the Ghana Beyond Aid, resonates quite well with what's happening here today. And it's a business forum, so there are lots of private sector business people here, but there are policymakers as well. And for us at GIPC, of course, we believe that first and foremost, we must work to the benefit of country. But to the extent that country extends into continent is a very attractive proposition. And once we position ourselves as a hub in West Africa, but also as the entry point into the continent through the West African portal is important, then we need to pay attention to a lot of the businesses that have a regional focus, investors that have a regional focus, and try and bring them through Ghana. But without a doubt, I mean, the bigger, wider market is a much more attractive proposition. But that is the reason why we want to position ourselves as a hub in many sectors, and I believe that we are well on course to do that.
I'm just reflecting on the theme, for example, which talks about accelerating AFTA. It does suggest that the free trade area has not fully taken off. Do you share the same view? Well,
yes, it takes a while. I mean, if you look at the history of the EU, for example, many years ago when the architect of it, a young man called Jean Monnet from France, put it together, it took almost decades, loads of decades post-war to actualize it. And I think what we have in Africa is that there are lessons to learn from that and pitfalls to avoid, but to ensure that do it. I think that there's no point reinventing the wheel. We can leapfrog into action almost immediately. And I believe that, as somebody said on the panel today, Africa is not bereft of policies. We are very wealthy with policies. Now it's the implementation that almost always is a bit of a drag. But there is a tacit agreement and recognition coming up that we need to accelerate a lot of the things that we are asking for. For example, how do we improve value chains? How do we add value to our raw materials and resources? Africa is resource rich. But it's also population rich. So it's just not adding value to those resources, but also creating demand on the continent such that whatever we produce, we can market and sell within the continent. And I think that's very, very important.
You were raising some concerns about the bottlenecks earlier, and part of it has got to do with the visa requirements. For instance, between Ghana and South Africa, there was an agreement in principle to try and do visa on arrival and other considerations. Why is it taking so long for some of these bottlenecks to be removed?
I'd say even Ghana's relationship with South Africa is in an advanced form. And just this morning, I spoke to the Minister Naledi Pandor, and she spoke into our foreign minister, so I think there are some slight issues just to resolve. We do have that in operation, but that is the least of our problems. It's the other countries for which you need visas, and what it would take to unresolve some of these bottlenecks, because they are real barriers to trade and movement of people and goods and services. And we do understand that there are certain foundational stuff that would need to be resolved. For example, security, for example, goods of origin, nations of origin for goods and services and all that. But I mean, as I did say, it's really, it shouldn't be rocket science.
So that's my colleague Blazer Soga speaking to you, Grant, all the way from South Africa. Now, pensioners are warning government to stay off their pension funds. That's in a response to government's renewed, offer for pension funds. Now, UTAG, which is the University Teachers Association of Ghana, has released a statement warning government to stay off. Their statement says, "We have seen the invitation by the Ministry of Finance addressed to the Board of Trustees of Pension Funds dated 7th April 2023 with the caption, request for participation in the new GOG proposed alternative offer for pension funds." Now, the statement continues to say that the NEC of UTAG held an emergency meeting on 15th April 2023 and upon careful deliberations resolved to reject the new GOG proposed alternative offer for pension funds. The statement again continues that UTAG reiterates its earlier resolve on the domestic debt exchange program contained in a communique with reference UTAG/NAT/2022/EM-012 and dated 7th December 2022 that we are still unable to participate in any intervention that would worsen the plight of the already impoverished Ghanaian university lecturer. The statement again says, "We therefore write to unequivocally reject the request to use our pension funds, i.e. GUSS, SNIT, and any other pension fund that affect our members for the new alternative proposed offer by government." Now, we warn that governmental intransigence in this matter would not be countenanced, as we are willing to fight to ensure that no one robs our members of their pension funds. But Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says government has not deviated from the original agreement.
No, I don't quite understand that twist that seems to have been brought to bear. We signed an MOU with the pension funds. I forget the date, in which we talked about exemption, but also to work together towards ensuring that sustainability. So those discussions are going on. With regards to the debt exchange, I think we all are aware that we hadn't touched the cocoa bills, and we also hadn't touched the dollar-denominated local currency bonds. And so those discussions are going on. So those are the two instruments that still need to be worked on, that we are working on. But it's not coming to the public or the individual investors, etc. on that. Yeah. So that really is how.
To other stories now, the Ghana Senior High School has denied assertions that the school lacks accommodation after a video showing students using a toilet facility in the school as a dormitory went viral on social media. The video showed mattresses, chop boxes, and students in the hallway of the facility going about their activities. The video triggered anger and disapproval from members of the public appalled by the state of event in the school. However, the headmaster of the school, Douglas Yakubu, said he had no idea students were using the facility as sleeping space. Now, here's his initial reaction to the issue.
Apart from this building, Cabral Banzaba House, we have a building. In fact, I wouldn't call it an abandoned, but we have a building, an occupied building that had previously been used as accommodation. But because we have more than enough to take care of the students in respect of accommodation, we have moved the students to the new building that was put out. And that building is there unoccupied. So accommodation for students isn't a problem at all, let alone to force them to sleep in the cubicles that was showcased to the whole public. And most of the students are coming from very far places. As we speak, only the second year students are here, even few. Many of them are still at home. So it will not be proper for us to expect the children to carry their chop boxes, mattresses, and everything home whenever school is not in session. So it is through resource students, and that is so because it is a facility meant for student accommodation. So they could have been there for a different thing other than what was sold out to the general public. It is very clear that, yes, the rooms were originally designed to serve for the purpose of toilet facilities. I am an old student of this very house, Banzaba House. I entered Ghana School in 1993 and left in 1995. Within the period, I found myself as a student for 3 clear years. The facility was never used as a toilet. And my inquiry has even moved back to even 70s, 80s, and 90s. The place has never been used for toilet facility, let alone for the school to think of converting it when we even have excess capacity for residential accommodation for the students.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Education Service has started investigations into the issue, asking the headmaster to stand aside to allow for investigations to be carried into this particular matter. We're joined via Zoom by the Regional Minister for the Northern Region, Shani Al-Hassan Shaibu, there, and then also the reporter who first broke the story, Kwame Tamaklo. Let me start with you, Kwame. Now, the school is disputing that that facility that you saw is indeed a toilet facility. What did you see, and how can you justify your initial story that you brought out?
Well, thank you very much.
Apologies for the very poor sound quality there. Would still try and work online so we can get him to speak to. But let me turn to the regional minister who has been touring the school to find out firsthand what the real issue is. So, Mr. Minister, you've been to the school. What did you see, sir? Now, let's bring in the regional minister, Shani Al-Hassan Shaibu, who has been touring the school. So you have been to the school after the story broke out. What did you see?
And then also there was no...
All right, so we're struggling with the lines there. We're trying to bring in the regional minister who has been touring the school to find out firsthand what the real issues are.
We have come here, we have had a survey around the building, and that could not be true. It is far from being true, and we would want to make it clear to the general public that this was a blatant misinformation that was carried, and we would want everybody, each and every one of us, to treat this with the contempt that it deserves. Rooms and bath facilities that have been scattered around I can see 2 on this side, newly built, in use. He could have reported on those things too, if he actually wanted to do a balanced reportage. But he chose to do a one-sided false statement and leave. Just, I don't know, maybe for want of his own expression, he decided to do that. And I would call it irresponsible. It should be treated as such. What is true is that upon vacation, some of the students would keep their boxes in those cubicles. I would call them cubicles. And the Director General of Education to do a thorough investigation about this I may seem to be partial, but I don't think so. I don't think I'm partial because this is my school also, and I would want the best for my school. If I had seen anything wrong with this behavior, I would have equally commented on it. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. The case is that this is of malice that somebody has hatched, and I don't know for what reason that person would. But what gladdens my heart is that the Deputy Director General is here. I've gone around with him. We have seen all that has transpired, and he and his team would do a proper report to the Director General and the Minister, so that the appropriate steps will be taken to solve this problem.
Now, the Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Stephen Asamoah Boateng, has reached out to traditional authorities in Boko to explore ways of resolving the chieftaincy dispute there. In a meeting with the overlord and elders of the Kojo traditional area, the minister assured the chiefs and people of government support to use constitutional provisions to address the Boko debacle. He also assured them of government's commitment to law and order in the area, which he said is non-negotiable. The Chieftaincy Minister joins us via Zoom for more on this issue. Grateful to you, sir, for joining us now. What sort of assurances did you receive from the people of Kojo area after meeting them and assuring them of government's commitment to resolving the issue there?
Thank you very much. And I greet all your viewers and listeners. Yes, indeed, I've started work in earnest. My concentration and priority areas now is in the northern parts of the country, especially in the Boko enclave, where we all know that there are security concerns. And indeed, the fundamental issues are chieftaincy matters. It's my responsibility to focus there quickly and not just sit in Accra and finding pen and paper and writing letters. Is to go there and go to the spot. And I did. And it's been gratifying to note that the people have received me with open arms. And so, yes, they've been very open, and the traditional councillor showed up, and there was packed palace. And we had a frank discussion. I had a frank engagement with them, which, as you rightly said, I pointed out that the number one priority of a government is law and order. At least everybody must be protected, and you go about your normal business as a citizen. And that is our priority as a number one job. And also stated that we work with law. We don't just run a government anyhow. There are rules and regulation and legal frameworks. And we would go by that and ensure that there is a common understanding that we are a nation that abides by rule of law. We then had, we withdrew to what do I call it?
The conclave.
Environment, yes, and then we shared the details of what I meant there, which unfortunately right now I won't disclose to you now because before I went to Boko, I had gone to the Mamprusi side, the Mamprugu Kingdom, a week before. So I deliberately chose exactly a week to go to the other side so that there's no space of time for people to start conjuring and thinking I'm coming and is he just going here and not mind us. So I chose just a week to try and talk to both sides. And so far, I'm happy. God has been gracious to me, and he has touched the hearts of the people, and I believe we can get somewhere that is understandable and appreciable, and people are happy with it.
Now, what sort of assurances did you receive that makes you believe that you will be able to get this, done with?
Well, I don't know whether you know the way I work. I don't just show up on the day of the activity. I do background work. And so before I went to Boko, I've been talking to them. Before I went to Nairobi, I've been talking to them. Before I go anywhere, I try and engage. So you have a feel, you have that relationship. And so I had a good sense that they are willing to find lasting solutions. And of course, there are areas that you must acknowledge that there will be sticking points at some point. And I did make it open in my presentation at the council that there will be challenges. There will be rough times. I hope we can smoothen it very quickly. And so we shouldn't expect everything is hunky-dory and it will be smiling all the way. There will be difficulties, but people must be prepared to compromise. But in your compromise, I also acknowledge, and I said it to them, that I would also be very frank that you don't throw away your core points that you came with, so that your compromise becomes nothing for you.
Okay.
And I also pointed out to them that my ministry is a facilitator. I'm not the magician that can wave a wand and solve the problem quickly. I do my best and with an open heart and humility serve them. But I will make use of the institution of the houses of chiefs.
Okay.
Politicians we don't get involved too much. That's not our business. The chiefs know the customs. They know the reasons. They know more than we do. And we don't try and interfere. You just provide a facility environment and show goodwill and show honesty and straightforwardness. And that's the kind of message I've carried along.
Okay. I'm grateful to you, Mr. Asamoah, for joining us. He is Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. Let's return to our latest story from the northern part of the country, where video purported to be coming from the toilet facility of the school there was being used as dormitory by students there. Now, the regional minister has been to the school and joins us live on phone now. Grateful for joining us, Mr. Minister. Now, you've been to the school. We understand that you label it as someone trying to be mischievous with that video. But what actions, concrete actions, are you taking to ensure that the students have somewhere proper to sleep?
Thank you very much for having me on your program. I think Ghana School doesn't lack dormitory facilities. I am very much aware, and I have seen a complete dormitory block that has been commissioned very recently by the GET Fund, which is not occupied. The information that I have gathered was that the school had made a request for 1,700 students. But we're given 1,400 students. So there is still space to occupy 300 students or even more. And what baffles me is that what I saw here is not in the picture. It's like somebody has gone to arrange all these things. Because when we went there, these things were not there. This was what we saw. There were chalk boxes that were packed in the place. Obviously, you don't even think that people would sleep here because there are no ventilation points here that would even allow people to sleep.
But Minister, from the video we're seeing, which of course cannot be concocted, it sort of portrayed that some people were sleeping there. Probably when the story came out, then the school made arrangement to get those students out. So how come, if the school has enough accommodation, to have certain students sleeping in such a facility?
The funny thing is that students are not even, it is only the final year students who are on campus, and they don't lack accommodation. Even if they were here, once the other students have gone on vacation, they could have found places to sleep. Because what we have seen here could just be some concoction that somebody had gone to do this arrangement.
Okay.
This Ghana School is my school. I'm very conversant with this atmosphere. And when you even go behind the building and look, you will never even see points of to suggest to you that this is a washroom or this is a toilet or this is what. These places, they keep when the school students are on holidays, these are the places that they go in to put their boxes, their chalk boxes, because they cannot carry them along home and bring them back.
So if that's the case, why do you think someone would shoot this? Because I'm seeing a video where some trunks and mattresses are.
That is what I said. That is what beats my imagination, because this is where they keep all these things. These boxes and their mattresses. You can see that there are not enough even mattresses here. There are not enough mattresses, apart from the mattress that they have just put in the corridor. And if you even put something like this in, how does people have access to the other cubicles? You can see it. If you are lying there, how does other people get into the cubicle? So that is what we are all wondering about when we go to the school. So I am very much aware, and I know that Ghana School doesn't lack accommodation. Ghana School is a very old.
All right, Mr. Minister, I'm grateful that you could join us. So what actions are being taken in the next 30 seconds? What actions are being taken now?
Yeah, well, the Minister and the Director General of Education have all waded into it. The headmaster and the senior housemaster have been asked to step aside. And that is the reason why I went there myself. When this thing happened, I was somewhere in Boku with the Chieftaincy Minister. So when I got the news and came back, I decided to go there this morning to see for myself. And what I saw it's not what has been reported. So we would allow the committee that has been put in place to work, and we would see what comes from it. The interesting thing is that the committee was led by a Deputy Director General, and I went on tour with him. After my visit, I left them to do whatever work they were assigned to do.
All right, Mr. Minister, I'm grateful that you could join us here. So that's the Northern Regional Minister, Shani Al-Hassan Shaibu, who says it beats the understanding how this could happen, because for them, when they went to the school has enough accommodation such that they don't understand how some student could be in such a facility and could be using it as their dormitory. Now, he says that the case is that there's only finalists who are on campus, and therefore there's enough for them. So we want to get in touch with the reporter who did this particular work to understand, the genesis of it. Kwame Tamaklo is that reporter. He joins us on phone now. Kwame, I mean, we are seeing the video you put out there, but the regional minister and the school is also disputing that this facility is not a place that they were using as a dormitory, and that there's enough spaces for every student of the school. What was the genesis? What were you told? How did you film this one that we're seeing, which of course is being contested?
Actually, this is a story I did as part of my project on the state of toilet facilities in some selected senior high schools in the northern region. I must say that what the regional minister or any other person is responding to, saying that it is false, is just strange and funny to me, because there was, at the time I went for this particular investigation, at the time of taking this video was around February, where second and third years were in school. So they were not on vacation, as he's claiming. Let's not also forget that this is an old student of Ghana Senior High School who, for different reasons best known to him, would like to give a good name to himself and then his alma mater. That is actually not my concern. The point is that it was a toilet facility that was converted by the school, which I mentioned in my documentary that will be released tomorrow, that it wasn't converted last year or last 2 years, because those the students that spoke to me said they came to meet the situation there. However, they could not tell me the very year that it was converted. Okay. So that is the point we need to make clear.
Kwame, were you told whether this had ever been used as a toilet facility before it was being converted?
Yes, the students confirmed to me that yes, it was a toilet facility some years ago, but they didn't mention the exact year, because there was a manhole attached to it, and you could even see, if you watch the video carefully, you see some components of the toilet that has been detached. You still have traces of the marks there. And so everything we saw there, students just came back from class, and then they took off their shoes, hung their uniforms, had their towels on.
Okay. All right. I'm grateful to you, Kwame Tamaklo. He brought out that story earlier. You're still watching Johnny's Prime. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. Now, the Accra Digital Center, which houses the passport office and other national IT installations, has been taking off the national grid following the entity's 600,000 cedis indebtedness to the Electricity Company of Ghana. Now, the Accra West office of the ECG disconnected power to the facility after failing to agree a payment plan with the center. Public Relations Manager Fred Bambil Johnson tells my colleague James Aveji the center will have to meet the demands of ECG before power will be restored. Meanwhile, the Electricity Company of Ghana has recovered over 2.5 billion cedis out of the 5.7 billion cedis in debt by customers. Now, the revenue mobilization drive of the company ends this week, and the team was in town to collect or disconnect defaulting customers. Now, we have a breakdown of the debt portfolio and arrangement with the Ghana Revenue Authority to address some of the debt. My colleague, Elting Brobe, joins me on the line with more. Okay, so my colleague James Aveji was in town today and he's found this.
Today, the Accra West region of the Electricity Company of Ghana has decided to embark on a revenue mobilization drive as I started earlier nationwide. Today, the focus is on the Accra West region, where they are targeting some both public and private institutions that have been owing the ECG in debt. The exercise started from Farmer Ghana in the industrial area, where the team visited and had some chit-chat with managers of the company. From there, they came to the Accra Digital Center. Fred Bambil is the PRO for the ECG Accra West region. You've gone in there and you are out. What has the discussion been so far?
Unfortunately, this is a place that owes us. We've been having conversations for the past few weeks, but they haven't yielded the results we wanted. So we are going to go ahead to resort to what usually is our last resort when it comes to our revenue mobilization activities. That means we are going to disconnect them, and probably they'll be uncomfortable till they're able to make payments and then redeem the debt they owe us.
Do we know what the figures are? And when you went in there, what was their position this morning when you came again?
Well, I mean, it's they were pleading. But like I say, these are conversations we've been having for a period. For this exercise alone, it's been on for the past 1 month. So you can imagine that various stakeholders and various companies that owe us have been having certain conversations with us. But if these conversations are not yielding any fruitful results for us, then it means at a point like this, such a thing has to happen. So as a company that sells electricity, usually we like to disconnect as a last resort, because once you're not using the power, it means you're not paying for it. So we sometimes hold on with the disconnection and try to engage to see if it will yield any fruitful results. But unfortunately for us, this didn't work out. So we are going to go ahead and disconnect.
From the Accra Digital Center, the team proceeded to Ethel Tigo, where the ECG says the company owes them. After a prolonged negotiation between managers of ECG and the telecom operator, the two parties agreed that Ethel Tigo makes settlement of 1 million Ghana cedis.
But Ethel Tigo is disputing that they ever owed ECG. We've been joined via Zoom by Nancy Aso-Asiedu Amrado, head of brand and communications at Ethel Tigo. Grateful that you could join us. Now, ECG says you owe. You say you didn't. When was the last time you made any payment to the ECG?
Well, thank you very much for having me, and good evening to you and your cherished listeners. So I'll start by saying that the last payment we made to ECG before they came to our office was actually for the month of January and parts of February. So
I think
if ECG had done
there's a challenge in the quality of the sound there.
reconciliation.
There's a challenge in really following what you're telling us because of the breakages we are having. You say that you owed them January and part of February. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, so sorry again. Like I said, I'm using my phone and someone was calling. Sorry about that. So I'm just saying that the last payments we had made to ECG, that we were expecting them to see it in their system before coming, was the one for January and parts of February, which had been paid.
Okay.
And I'm saying that if that had been seen or that due diligence had been done by ECG, I don't think they would have come to our office, because we showed proof of payment and even showed what we had even paid for March. So we had done even full payments for March, which I know because of the duration, we were not expecting them to see it in their system. However, what we had already paid should have been seen. However, there was a conversation and we had to even print bills and show proof of payments from October last year till March.
So how much did you owe and how many months were you owing ECG?
Okay, so on average, I had you quoting $1 million. On average, for every month, we have 3 meters. And out of these 3 meters, if you put the total together, it does not even come up to $1 million.
Okay. So my question is, how much are you owing the ECG?
Okay, so currently, as I speak, we don't owe last year. This year, we have cleared January. We have cleared March. February, we've made part payments of February, and it's not even up to the amount you just quoted.
Okay.
So all we want to say is that some reconciliations had to be done. Some due diligence on the parts of ECG should have been done before coming to our office with the whole workforce and even with the media. So after our conversation in the meeting and the reconciliation, they all agreed that there was no need for the media coming into this. So I'm even surprised that this is being published and there's conversation here and there.
Okay, all right. I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to you that you could join us to tell your side of the story.
Yeah.
Now, Managing Director of ECG, Samuel Dubik Mahama, is optimistic the finances of the company will be greatly enhanced if power sold is collected. He's been speaking exclusively to Joy News.
We can say we've collected in excess of 2 billion, and we know that this is the final week. This final week, we are pushing very hard. Our intention is to say that, look, we've had a month long. We've been patient for 3 weeks now. This is the last week. There are no longer any more excuses. It's okay. Just pay up so that the company can be made whole. Our intention is to do our best to make sure that we retrieve enough of the revenue so we can build a better company. Our intention is to make sure that we do it right for there to be enough meters for all our customers to benefit from it. So that's the plan that we are on now.
You set out to retrieve some 5.7 billion cedis. You say you are somewhere over 2 billion. You'll be wrapping up this weekend, right? What confidence do you have that you'll be able to meet that 5 billion debt that you were chasing?
So, in truth, this is not an exercise that you think you'd be able to finish. No, you can't. But within this short period, we intend to recover enough of it and then now launch a proper and systematic process to continuously close that gap as quickly as possible. There's a possibility that we might even start selling the debt to private institutions to go and collect. It's something that we are thinking about. We are getting to the point where we need all the help that we could get. So if it means discounting it to the necessary company and then getting what we need, yes, why not?
Managing Director of the ECG. Now, just before we break for Showbiz, Joy News investigations have uncovered how the dire financial constraint compelled management of produce buying company to roll plans to restructure the country's biggest indigenous entity. Now, over the last 5 years, the company's market share has declined by 30.88% to 8%. Now, in January last year, the management of the company hinted of downsizing the staff because it was unable to meet financial and operational obligations to its workers. In August 2022, management issued a memo. It is unable to pay salaries to staff. There is more in our latest Hotline documentary later today. So do make time for that documentary. But it's not time for us to bring you Showbiz.
This time.
All right, so time for us to bring you Showbiz, and the person I describe as the queen of Showbiz, Becky Bex, is here with more. Hiya.
Hello to you, Brace. How you
doing?
doing?
I'm well. I love your hair.
Thank you.
Maybe I would have to think about paying for it.
Please do.
I didn't say anything.
But Brace, let's congratulate Rosalind Ngiza because she has earned a nomination for Best Actress in a Comedy, Movie and TV Series category at this year's Africa Magic Viewers' Choice Awards. Rosalind is the 5th Ghanaian to not be nominated for the prestigious awards after the likes of Lydia Forson, Gloria Safo, Adete Anand, Pascal Aka, and Raquel. The coveted awards, which honors exceptional performances in entertainment, are now in their 9th edition. The awards organizers MultiChoice rolled out the list of nominations into various categories on the weekend, and actress Rosalind earned a nomination for Best Actress in a Comedy, Movie and TV Series for her role in the movie Red Carpet. In 2020, Gloria Safo won for her role in Perfect Picture 10 years later, which was Ghana's sole nominations at the event. In 2018, Adete Anand and Lydia Forson won Best Actor and Best Supporting Actress, respectively, at the event. Adete Anand also won for his role in Ghanaian movie Keteke, and Lydia Forson was also celebrated for her role in the Nigerian film It's Okay. So let's give it up for Rosalind Ngiza for this beautiful feat.
That was a sweet performance.
Yeah, just go on my jawline to watch that. But Brace, before we go, let's talk about episode. Do you know that he said that he doesn't smoke and he doesn't drink?
I won't be surprised.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because some people live a certain life. You might think they do certain things, but they don't.
Right. So he spoke to my colleague Kwame Dazi in this very exclusive interview.
This is not even for camera. Anybody who knows me or anybody who has followed me over time knows that I've never even drank before, I've never smoked before. Oh, and people might think I'm just speaking out this, and I can bet this on my mom.
Oh, wow. You don't smoke?
No, I've never smoked. I have not, it's not I don't, I have never tried it.
Wow.
I can bet it on I can swear on my mom. That's how deep it is.
Not even Holy Ghost?
No, I haven't.
Don't you feel odd when you are in the midst of these other artists that do things that you don't do?
So the thing is,
sometimes
I fake it.
You share yourself be like that.
Sometimes I fake it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you go there backstage and somebody go come, Charlie, you get raised laugh for this. Oh, the last one finished. You see, the reason is not to actually say that the people who do it are bad, but you see, from even a fan's perspective, they idolize you. They look at you in certain ways. They look at you as somebody who they can see themselves in. So when a fan is like that, and then maybe the fan approaches you and they say that, you know, that things, I say, oh, no. You get what I'm saying? And people should understand that our personal lives are quite different from what they see on TV.
Sure.
So somebody might think that, okay, so as a dancehall artist, you definitely have to be in that thing.
That'll be all for Showbiz here on Joy News Prime. Right?
And that will be all for Joy News Prime here on the channel. But remember that our latest documentary, PBC Troubles, airs later tonight at 8:30 p.m. Up next, there's Prime Business. But remember to brush your teeth tonight with Pepsodent and do same tomorrow morning when you wake up, because you know that with Pepsodent, every smile matters. All right, thanks so much for being part of us. Good evening.